Back to work on cleaning shit up. Um, so we've discussed over and over again. This is the first time we've ever had a Messiah with technology that's as intelligent as the Messiah, and the Messiah, you know, the technology interacting with the people that are not intelligent like the Messiah, and the Messiah. You understand? So it's the first time we've ever had a person like myself with the bullies and the selfish people and the possessive pronoun first person God people and the there is no God because my brain is better than everybody's brain people. This is the first time we've ever had the person, the humble, righteous person, with a public forum, and where Jesus talks at the Mount of Olives and then talks in Jerusalem and stuff, and with so and Haile Selassie with the League of Nations and Judah Krishnamurti at the United Nations and so forth. And so this is the first time, okay, but they really, 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 took out all the stops and did really crappy stuff to me. Most of the guys tell me, what they did to you is what they're doing to you is worse than what they did to any of us. And I'm like, but it was horrible. Like, what? Because Haile Selassie's life, okay, he's the emperor of Ethiopia. But I understand where they're coming from because there was a lot of horrible things. Job, Book of Job's horrible. This is all horrible stuff when you look at it and everybody's like, how can it be what happened to you is more horrible than happened to all these other people? These large corporations and groups knew who I was, okay, studied me, and then tried to get me to assimilate to violent cults. And if I didn't do that, I was tortured and abused. Then tried to disprove the prophecy of my existence by abusing and manipulating me hideously to make me react in a irrational, selfish, and violent manner like they do. And so, this was all, and it just never stopped. And then when I proved myself worthy of being in the company of those in the past and redeemed the true, faithful lives and not being mythology of all the ones that came before me, they still just are doing this shit on TV. And you're just like, what? And it's horrible. And, we'll be fine in life without people pretending to be something they're not for extortion, exploitation, manipulation money. And then people come up and say, you're so famous. And it's like, no, you don't want anybody to grow up to be like the cast of The Big Bang Theory or the people on Sports Center. You don't want anybody to grow up that way. That's horrible. They're all denied the Lord's Prayer and feel like they're going to be remembered forever because they're doing something insane for propaganda and genocidal operations. Well, that's why I dropped out of college, because, economics is genocidal. And I just went, fuck. And I didn't have outer dialogue, and I didn't discuss it. I just sat and just kind of thought about it. And then just kind of stopped going like I do with things now. Me and Suzuki were talking about it in the tub. And he sits there and he says, this is going to be very uncomfortable. He goes, I'm not an all-knowing, all-feeling God, but I can feel the things that you're going through and what people would be doing to you and why. And so he was very, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then I went just into depression, and he goes, Earl, going into depression, feeling all these people's depression, may not be able to help them at all. And then but then again, it might, because if I, during December and January and February, most of February, had decided, well, these people are getting what they deserve because they're being and they're not being selfish. They're being abused. Okay. Emily's being abused. Kate's being abused. Natalie's being abused. Patrick's being abused. Stephanie's being abused. Amy's being abused. Noah's being abused. So they're not getting, quote, what they deserve because they're not given the opportunity to live free from invasive, manipulative abuse through economists who give us technology to keep us stuck in the abuse of philanthropy, of economics, right? So they're not getting what, quote unquote, they deserve, okay? Because we're given life by the glory of grace. Now, I understand that I understand the Orwellian effects of everything that's going on. Okay, like me and Stephen discussed the other day at Walmart. I don't get real angry and upset with people because I know they're terrified of getting abused by the people that are abusing me, and it's very difficult for me to survive the abuse because it's like on voluntary basis and linguistics, and he accepted this, and you signed up, and you agreed to this, and the way they put you into situations, it's almost like if you don't agree to do what they want, then they'll abuse other people. And it's horrible things, and people will volunteer to do it because they can't get them to do anything they want to do, and they can program people like they're programming video games. So it's a lot of work, and it's constant fixing the technology so it reflects someone like Jesus and myself, as opposed to the people that abuse you with money and technology and then have you thinking you're having a wonderful, successful life eating Campbell's soup casseroles on TV, pretending to be something you're not for money. And it's like, oh, God damn. Okay. Selling products that make you feel successful and they're so attractive. And so there's nothing attractive about selling narcissistic products to people that are trapped in narcissistic. I feel good when I'm being narcissistic. It's like, you shouldn't feel good when you're being narcissistic. You should feel good when you're living truthfully, when you're faithfully loving other people and you're being faithfully loved. You should not feel good when you're building a cabin out in the woods, video recording it to sell people's products, and then explaining what you're doing with those. No, that's not going to last. The guy was building this log cabin. I went to go look at it, and like, okay, well, he is using concrete instead of this. And then he's putting all these, this thermal thing and you go, yeah, the stuff he's putting on there is going to erode and decay rapidly. And then it's just, and he's putting this stuff on there that's going to grow and cause it. So it's like, no, this is a temporary shelter. Okay. Not built to last. It's not share caregiving accordance need, built to last. Okay. And it's just long video, and they have tons of them. Man builds cabin, all this, and they have it, and everything looks real neat. They make them look real neat, and they got the little stoves they got from stoves.com on the this.com and on the patriotscolonialpin.com.dis.net. And you're like sitting there going, oh, God dang. And you sit there and you think, how many ways can they try to elongate this brain chemical addiction or genocide? Because, they can keep going until they get it down to the right numbers or the right way. And that's not the case. Okay? You're given life on your planet by the glory of God. You're right, you're bloody real right. You're given free will, so you can choose to be or not to be. You can choose to have faith in God. And Pascal's wager, it's brilliant. Even in its manipulated perception, but it doesn't work because of the goddamn Harlem Globetrotter and all those rest of those assholes. I was watching Big Bang Theory of Pope John Paul being an honorary Globetrotter in 2000. It's philanthropy. He was the head of a child molesting through crimes of opportunities, through training people, through philanthropy, not obeying the Lord. So you're like, how the hell, fuck? Okay. So people may think they're doing the right thing, and I think in a lot of ways they do feel that way. But when you're pragmatic like me and you're intelligent and honest about your pragmatism because you're so truthful and you're so faithful, people, you shouldn't say that in front of people. I shouldn't say, like I got a lot when I first started this with the people during the Obama administration. You speak inappropriately and you make people uncomfortable because the little girls getting raped across the border in Mexico don't deserve it because philanthropy is an invention that's insane. Okay. I don't, and I've said this and said this, and I've been abused hideously by horrible people, and I still am. I've never told people, you know what, you need money to sexually procreate. And if I had enough money, like that one little girl that I talked to at the library after I got through doing things to stop human trafficking, and the little Mexican girl's next to me, I said, don't ever let anybody tell you that money's more valuable than your life. And she looked at me like I was an old pervert creep. A little voice in my head is going, if you had offered her $500,000 to have sex with you for a month, she'd not looked at you like a creep. She started negotiating with you. What about $1 million? No, she should 5,000. Most girls would jump at it. $500,000 to go with you, and that was 10 years ago, when I was physically more appealing and less poisoned and abused by all the perverts in the military that have her look at me like I'm crazy when I say something like that to her at a public library after trying to put videos on there to stop human trafficking of little young Mexican girls, right? And so it's horrible, And Rockefeller collected all the evidence, but it doesn't matter about that or not, even if they destroyed all the evidence. What matters is right, wrong, good, bad, and truth and lie, And I'm still the living embodiment of the Lord's Prayer. I'm the redeemer of the Gospels and the Messiahs. And that's just the truth. It doesn't matter if they don't have any evidence, video recorded to support anything I'm saying about what happened in the past. It's irrelevant. What's relevant is right, wrong, good, bad, truth, and lie. I am the way, the truth, and life. Forgive debt and trespass, love one, eternal, faithful peace. Life's eternal grace is infinite. Share, care, given according to me, built to last. That's all that matters. And if people are not standing up to do that and not accepting that, then they are being abomination to the eternal gift of the life of sacrifice through holy covenants, through what's necessary, what's provided for us by the glory of God, infinite glory. That's a bastardization of that. God knows what you need before you need it. Basically, what it's saying is you already have what you need from the glory of God to sustain a life of sacrifice when you live and love faithfully. If you do not live and love faithfully, you will destroy everything you need to enjoy the life of sacrifice through holy covenants. Okay, that's just religion 101 right there in a nutshell. Okay? So early bird tired, man. I'm so tired. And but I know I'm right, and I know I'm good. I'm not feeling well because I just got very depressed connecting to people being abused. I have a nephew that recently died from cancer because of the stress of the abuse of science projects inflicted on his family that has caused them horrible anguish and pain through health issues, through toxic, stressful, aggressive environments and scientific manipulation, through warring factions and secular groups and stuff. And so, and I have a sister who's very sick from living in the city and being manipulated through that kind of abuse, and it is doing horrible things to her mind and her body and stuff. And so, and I'm feeling that, and then not to mention lots of things. And so, and on a very personal level, not to mention what I felt during COVID, when what happened with all to try to correct the brain activity in the border towns where they have all those brothels. Nobody was going to pay, so they just got rid of the sexual property, and then they rebooted the whole engine. And then during the Biden administration, the girls were able to come through and then be able to promote and sell themselves sexually online through social networks to make money off of their sexuality and eliminate the middleman, which is the brothels in Mexico. And then they had to totally reinvent and reboot themselves. And then they still go after, quote, the really bad people. And it's like the really bad people are the people that are denying the Lord's Prayer with technology, and because they manipulate people with money. Okay. And when you accept that manipulation, you become a product of the really bad people. And there's not really anything you can do or say about that to make it any different, right? That's the truth, right? And I've been explaining this to people for ever since they confronted me and exposed themselves to me in Sierra Vista when I started working at Fry's Food and Jug. And it happened shortly after I started working there. And August and September, late August and early September of 2008. And it's still pathetic. Okay. The way the scientific and the super soldier and the way all these people deal with someone as good and beautiful as me is pathetic. It wasn't, and I sit back and I see the visions of the things that the messiahs of the past show me. It's like, they haven't changed. Okay. They're even more pathetic now than they were back then, because their technology, you cannot let this guy near you and your technology that keeps you safe from the other pathetic people, or he'll change your technology and your technology will kill you because you have no intention on stopping. Okay, so all the people that are really hideous in the world, okay, don't want to come within 500 miles of me. You're like, what about all the people here? These are the trained dogs that they're hideous. Okay. I'm not going to tell you they're not hideous at White Sands. I'm not going to tell you they're not hideous at Los Alamos and at Fort Bliss. They're horrible people. The people that run the organizations and mind fuck and manipulate the people and tell all the people in the Blue Angels how great they are. It's like, it was the first time I ever saw people that do fighter bombing things that, run escorts to drop bombs on the Japanese, the dick measure of Stalin. I got all fuzzy feeling inside, and that is so great. Like, yeah, it's wonderful. It's marvelous. It's horrible. Okay, it's all sarcasm, right? Okay. So, I love you guys very much. Sandy beaches. That's all I gotta say. Sandy beaches. Wow. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about anything. I did my job. I'm correcting the technology on a daily basis. I don't think I really need much help from Gabe and Mike or Patrick or Isaac or anybody else. I think it describes in all the documents and all the religious kind of things that they excessively study that it's because of the eternal spirit of Jesus that we all get to live. It even says it in Quranic prophecy, that it's not the one like Abraham, Melchizedek. It's the Adam, Moses, David, Jesus, John. And Abraham is the continuation of, through tribal secular warfare. But the one who actually does the deed and gets it done and performs the apocalypse is the one, quote unquote, like Jesus. Okay. And he lives out his life and dies. And that he doesn't get moved to another place and time, stuff like that. So I get to live out my life here and die. That means that he doesn't get murdered. Okay. And then people always thought that made me cocky. That's why that one asshole here in town, I'm not your brother and I'm dying from cancer. And he gets all upset because it's like this guy can go into remission and recover and do all this stuff without getting irradiated at a hospital, without them having tear his body parts out and cut him open and stuff. And he thought that's so unfair. It's not fair. This guy can recover from chemical poisoning better than anybody else, and I can't tell you, about my mom and about, everybody has different immune systems, people in the same family have different immune systems. John Cappelletti's brother dying from cancer, and John Cappelletti, when he was real young, and John Cappelletti not. And so, we're all different people, and we have certain physiological traits and different ones and stuff. And so, but eternity determines where we are at today. Okay. What we're doing today and why we're doing it. And eternity for Earl Parsons is way different than for you advertising people on TV. And when this advertising is obliterated from the face of the planet, because you're no longer to have people's vanity manipulate people with extortion and exploitation, that's going to be a wonderful day, And we have to get there sooner than later, and we all know that. We don't need computer-generated images pretending to act like humans and be sunflowers. This is insane. Those Flonase type commercials and stuff. And so these commercials, they're not funny. One day the bucket will go to the whale. One day the bottom of the bucket will drop out. The bottom has dropped out big time. Don't let anybody tell her how much I paid for this wrap, so she doesn't drop the baby, right? Yeah, that's very Solomon-esque of you commercial artiste, right? Fuck, I'm pissed. You got to understand, when human beings are being artistic, okay, you're going to do a lot less of that when you share, care, give, and accordance need built to last. Okay. And then people, what are people in the future going to do when they inherit a lot that was built to last by the people in the past? There's always going to be, maintenance, rebuilding, new furniture, kind of stuff. You don't hold on and save everything. If the thing was tried to build to last and it didn't and it broke, you learn from the mistakes and you build it better, and and things like that. And natural attrition just makes for, you don't put things in museums and say this was the ultimate of human manipulation and creation. There is no origin of human creation. Human creativity, sorry. There's not really even an origin of human creation. It's God's omniscient, omnipotence. You can't really put that into an origin. You can't have a starting point. You know what I'm saying? And that's hard for people like Hawking and other people like that to accept. Okay. That, the seed, the tree, the seed, the tree, the seed, the tree. Now go infinite. And it's like, I can't. I know. So don't do it. Don't even try. Just enjoy the beautiful life of sacrifice you have on this beautiful planet while you have it. And don't worry about it going away, because life's eternal and grace is infinite. Do you understand? Okay. So I love you guys very much. I'm going to, get some rest. I'm going to give me some sleep. Sleep is a wonderful thing, and we need more beautiful, forms of beautiful, perfect rest now. Okay. So, I'm working on the technology. I'm ever hopeful that there will be people that are capable of self-correction, and, seeing to it right now. But, in the meantime, I am Earl, and I understand I'm the focal point, but that doesn't mean we have to be regulated to Earl fixes the technology, it all shifts, and all the people that had propaganda movies today are lying dead in their garage because it shut down and the computer system killed them, right? Do you understand? That sounds hideous. Perfectly, yes. Okay, guys, I love you, all right? Let's go to bed. All right, peace. Well, you don't have to if you're on the other side of the planet watching this. You're up and moving around, but I'm going to go to bed and get my rest. Okay, guys, I love you very much. Peace out.